Hello and welcome to the Save the Punter Betting Show, the programme where we do the research for you so you don't have to. Every week we preview the biggest English football games and advise you of where we think there's value to be had to make your sports betting life a little easier. So I'm your host Paris Barron. I'm back with two fine strike partners. Ash, known as Cherry Analyst on Twitter. Ash, I can see you're enjoying a Heineken and a haircut there. How are you?
I'm well. Every day's a good day with Heineken.
And we've got Austrian Pete with us as usual. Hey, Pete.
All right. How's it going?
Yeah, well, you had an absolute stormer with your bets last time around. It was, 8 winners from 9?
Yeah, just one of those weekends that makes up for the nonsense weekends.
Yes, it's pushed you right up the leaderboard. So listeners, if you're new to this podcast, we have a publicly editable doc which anyone can access. You can put your own bets on there and you can track our bets as well. With a lot of podcasts, you'll find they only talk about their profit and loss on weeks when they're winning. They won't talk about it every week because they don't like talking about the losers. But we're very transparent. We like everyone to be able to see all our bets. So as well as talking through them on the podcast, we put them on this Google Doc. If you go to @SaveThePunter on Twitter, that's @SaveThePunter, you'll see our pinned tweet. It'll link you to this doc. If not, just send us a DM and we can get it to you. It never changes where it is. It's always in the same location, so you can save it to your bookmarks. And Pete, you've gone right up the leaderboard to second. You've just overtaken Ash. You're now on 11.33 points profit. Ash is on 11.06. Ash with the slightly better ROI, 35.7%, Ash.
It's all about the ROI.
Premier League markets, that's ridiculous.
The Premier League's been going well this season, actually. Just in general, it's been going well. Surprised myself by it, but yeah, you've got to crack on, haven't you?
You got to thank Che Adams for some of that, haven't you?
He is the man. Che Adams, Soucek's chipped in a little bit as well. Well, yeah, no, it's been a good year in the Premier League, so I'm not going to complain too much.
I mean, any ROI above 5% on these sort of efficient markets is incredible. But to be above 30%, I mean, you've got to be some sports better to be above 30%. Oh, hold on. Is that? Oh, yeah, 33.09 for me. Yeah, not too bad at all. Sitting at the top of the leaderboard with 13.4 points profit. I think this week's a chance for you two to catch me because I've not picked out a lot that I like. So let's see if we can get the listeners a bit more profit. We're on just under £1,000 profit this season for the listeners in Premier League betting. And we're going to kick off with our strongest bets of the week. So, Pete, I'm going to go to you first. After your 8 from 9 last time out, what's your most fancied pick of the card?
Yeah, I thought it was a tough week as well to pick out some bets. I'm going for West Ham -0.25 against Brighton. I think it's 2.05 is the price that I've got, Bet365. I saw, like last night, Gary Neville predicting Brighton to go down. I mean, I don't agree with that, definitely. I've been a big fan of Brighton. I almost expected, when I priced the game up, I expected to be back in Brighton. But West Ham are just a bigger price in this game. Like Brighton, they play well. I think Ash has mentioned it before. They're not really winning the games. They drew against Sheffield United. They missed chance after chance. They drew against Fulham away, lost comfortably at Leicester, lost against Southampton. They drew with Liverpool. They did quite well. But there's something just isn't quite clicking in the attack for Brighton. And we see with West Ham, they're just a really good team. Even yesterday lost 3-0, but that was a tight game against Chelsea. And just looking at the stats, West Ham up over 57% shots in the box, 56% expected goals. Brighton are up there as well, but it just doesn't seem to translate into goals. They've changed the goalkeeper, which seems to have helped a bit, but there's something not quite right. And to get -0.25 odds against for West Ham at home, I think is a good price.
There's some of the trends would support you as well. If you look at West Ham's last 15 home matches, I think they've won 11 of those against the bottom 6. and Brighton are in the bottom 6 at the moment. And Brighton, when they've played away against middle third teams, they've lost 5 of the last 10. Brighton play some nice football. You can see that the players all understand the philosophy behind the tactics, but I think the reason why they're underperforming against metrics like expected goals so much is they just don't have strikers that are good enough for putting the ball in the back of the net. Mopé isn't quite prolific enough. Trossard has a lot of shots, perhaps in positions where you shouldn't. So that could be one reason there. West Ham are a team that we've done well out of this season. Ash, if you had to put your money on this game, could you be supporting West Ham on the Asian?
If I had to put my money on it, yes, I would maybe just about lean to West Ham, but I'm not going to have a bet in the game. You did raise an interesting point there about why Brighton underperform XG and the likes. And you do try and have to look for things of why. And you mentioned strikers. They've got Danny Welbeck. I mean, the guy's played for Man United, Arsenal, and banged in goals for England. It's crazy how his career's got him down playing on the south coast for Brighton, isn't it? Like you do have to think that. If they can get him scoring, they'll be absolutely fine and finish 11th or 12th, somewhere like that. But yeah, for me, I'd rather just sit on my hands. I'm not really that impressed by West Ham as such. They were lucky to get a point against Palace, and I can just leave this game alone, I think.
Yeah, okay. Just on the Welbeck point, yeah, he's played for Man United and Arsenal, but he wasn't prolific. His ratio for Man U was just about 1 in 5, and for Arsenal was a bit better than 1 in 5, but never been prolific at Watford. Admittedly, pretty much all substitute appearances, but he only scored 2 for them.
Yeah, I think looking at it, I think you feel like watching Brighton, you feel like they're not prolific. But if you actually look at the stats, that hasn't really been the issue this year. It's been the conceding goals. I remember I looked at the stats a couple of weeks ago. They'd conceded 21 goals from 11 expected goals, and they had a 43% save percentage. That's probably why Matt Ryan's been benched. And the Sanchez guy actually looks decent. It's more been teams scoring goals against them that you maybe wouldn't expect to keep happening. The attack hasn't actually been as bad, hasn't been that bad. So
you say that, and they have scored more than the teams around them. I think Sheffield United and Burnley are the lowest scorers with 8. You got West Brom 10, Fulham 13, Arsenal have only scored 12, and Brighton have managed 16 goals. So perhaps with the keeper replacement, that could help their cause, but hopefully not this week, because it sounds like Pete's strongest bet is West Ham -1/4. He mentioned you can get that price at Bet365. It's available in most places. There's much of a muchness on the price there, maybe a tick or two in it. I think perhaps Pete will maybe keep that as a 1-point bet this week, seeing as there isn't huge emphatic support from Ash and I. Is that okay?
I mean, yeah, even for me, like there wasn't many bets that I loved this week. This was the one that came out. Yeah, 1 point, definitely.
Ash, what's your strongest bet on the card? What's your nap?
It is going to be Man United -1/4 away at Leicester. Now, Man United are getting loads of stick. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been getting loads of stick. If they win their game in hand, they're 2 points behind Liverpool, who are the greatest team since records began. Expected points doesn't have much in it between Man United and Leicester, but Leicester are non-penalty XG conceded. Only the bottom 3 teams are worse than them, and Leeds actually. So they give up chances. If they don't get penalties, Vardy isn't as dangerous as this anymore. Like he's not getting touches in the box, he's not getting shots in the box, but you can't just pretend he's not playing. I'm not a big fan of Brendan Rodgers. I've said that for many years, and I can see Man United going in and doing a job. They went there the last game of the previous season, won 2-0, done a very professional bit of work, and I like Man United to win this, but taking the -0.25 at around about 2.1 means you get half your money back if it's a draw. So that for me, it ticks all the right boxes that I like right now.
So that's interesting because United are good away from home this season. In fact, if you look at their last 10 matches away to the top 6, they've won 7 of them. That's an incredible record against fellow top 6 teams away from home. And actually, if you look at Leicester's last 10 home matches against the top 6, they concede first very often. So there's a couple of trends there that support it. But I know that Pete's had half an eye on keeping Leicester on side this week.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been a big fan of Leicester this season. I've been saying they're in a false position. I still think that, but it just came out. It was borderline, but it came out on a bet of Leicester to win. I think it's 2-1. It's still a big price, and this Man U team, I'm still not sure they can be trusted. Like we see, it seems every time they have a good couple of games, everyone's Solskjaer, what a good manager. Let's keep him going. Then they have like a couple of bad games. He's never been a manager. You've got to get rid of him. They've got to get someone else in. Then they do well again. Now they're third in the league. They're just constantly ups and downs. And they seem to be one of the most inconsistent teams that I've seen recently. Like they can beat Leipzig 5-0. Then they lose against Istanbul. And they have some games at home where they look terrible. And you don't really know what you're going to get. And I just think Leicester are the sort of team, even though I'm not a big fan of them, for 2-1 at home against a team where they can try and hit them on the counter, I think they've been a bit better with Maddison back in. It just feels like a decent bet.
Okay. So we haven't got complete agreement there on this one. One thing I did like was overs at 1.7. If I look at the defences, neither of them, I'd say, got the most organised and consistent defences. If you look at each team's last 20 games, home or away in the Premier League, I think if you combine those 40 games, 25 of them have gone overs. So, and even if you look more recently at, say, the last kind of 10 games against this opposition type, which is top 6, I think you're talking 6-10 and 5-10 have gone overs. And I like the matchup here because Man United, they're on a bit of a goodwill run. They're attacking a lot at the moment. They can be caught on the counter with Leicester's fast players like Barnes and Vardy. It'd be very interested to see if Rodgers plays Jose Perez instead of Albrighton to have even more pace on the counter-attack. So they had those 3 players running at Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw and Wan-Bissaka. That's big trouble. De Gea still hasn't proven that he's back to anywhere near his best. So you can't factor in wonder performances from him anymore that are going to completely save unexpected goals for Man U. And like I said, United have got so much firepower. Outside the box, they've got people like Greenwood and Fernandes that can score from distance. They've got Rashford in the box. They've got, I don't know if Pogba will play. Obviously, Cavani is a striker. It's got a great reputation. Has already scored a couple. So would you guys be for or against goals at 1.7?
I'd be with goals at 1.7. I've actually got that down as approaching a bit of value. Enough value for me to want to have a bet. I think I'll make it about 1.53, I think it was. Just to touch back on Pete's point, though, about not trusting Man United. So this season, Leicester have been beaten at home by Fulham. You didn't see that coming. Been beaten 3-0 at home by West Ham. And then they went and played Liverpool's reserves, where they were outplayed. Played off the park by actual children. Leicester. I don't trust Leicester either at all, to be honest.
Neither do I. I've been saying for weeks I don't think Leicester are good, and then all of a sudden I'm backing them. But
it is weird.
What's made you change your mind then, Pete?
Well, it's just the numbers just came out as a back, and I looked into it, and because I think Man U, you don't know what you're going to get. Leicester, I feel like they are the sort of team. Well, you saw how they went and played against Tottenham. I think they might have to play a slightly different way here, but they have got that sort of sit-in counter-attack style that I think Man U have struggled against at times. But yeah, it's not. I'm not banging down everyone back Leicester. It just came out as a bet, and I sort of go with it.
Okay. Well, look, given it's Ash's strongest bet, and we can't knock a man with that sort of ROI. I think we keep that to a point as well. So both your naps will go with a point. Maybe I can offer up something that's going to get the listeners a bit more interested with potential agreement from you two. And my strongest bet is Chelsea to beat Arsenal at even money. You can get even money with SBK and on the exchanges as well. I'll keep this short. There's a few reasons. The extra day's rest might be helpful. I think they've got a stronger depth of squad anyway. I don't really think Arsenal's tactics are really working. They like to get a lot of crosses in the box, and Arteta talked about that in press conferences, but I'm not sure they have the players to score a lot of headers, for example. If I look at the teams, Aubameyang's the only Arsenal player that would definitely get in Chelsea's team, but that's only if he was fully fit and on form, and he's not at the moment. So maybe you could say Saka would get in if Chilwell's injured, but apart from that, I'm not really seeing Arsenal players that could get into this Chelsea team and improve it. If we look at the PBR, that legendary metric that we use, Chelsea are rated second for me, and Arsenal in the bottom half, 12th. Even before this game week, when Chelsea recorded a fantastic victory last night, they had already had 113 shots in the box this season. That's 25 more than Arsenal. So that's saying every match, Chelsea have 2 more shots in the box than Arsenal do. And if we look at shots in the box conceded before this most recent game week, and I haven't updated my stats because obviously Chelsea only played last night, Arsenal had conceded 20 more shots in the box than Chelsea had across the same number of games. We've mentioned on previous podcasts, some of Arsenal's pricing is on reputation and history. And I really feel that even money in a game where there isn't really a home or away advantage, because neither team's travelling far, they're both spending Christmas Day in London. It's not far to travel to the game. The Emirates is not a partisan stadium to go to anyway, even less so with no fans there. And I couldn't believe Chelsea were evens. It's a 2-point play for me. Pete, as you're a Chelsea fan, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I think the value is on Chelsea. It's been three bad performances in a row from Chelsea. It's 3 games. Even the game against West Ham, if you look at the stats, it looks like a good, comfortable 3-0 win, but it was not. And there was some of the stuff from last season creeping in with the mistakes. Well, I think that might be just me reading too much into it, because I'm sure if you watch Arsenal, which I have, they're bad. So, I mean, I've been backing against Arsenal for weeks. I don't know why I should stop now. Maybe I shouldn't. But I make Chelsea should be odds on, yeah. So I say, yeah, looks okay.
Do we have a full house?
Yes, I do have. I've got Chelsea odds on here, about 1.83.
That's exactly what I've got.
Well, there you go. I think that's the right price. So just looking at, when I was doing the prices earlier and looking at the odds available, I didn't think I would be having a bet actually, because Chelsea were around about the 1.92, 1.93 mark. They're actually drifting out now to even money. So yeah, I can actually see myself back in Chelsea. Hopefully, I drift a little bit more. Yeah, anything about like 205 would be excellent. So yeah, I will be back in Chelsea, and I'll be keeping an eye on that market for any further drifts.
Fantastic. So we do have a full house. So let's go 2 points on that. Chelsea to beat Arsenal. It's even money on SPK. It is even money on all 3 exchanges, Smarkets, Matchbook. Maybe not quite on Betfair, but it looks like it's creeping there. And otherwise, you've got Unibet at 1.95. So let's just pause from betting for a second. We're gonna take some listener questions and then go back to the other bets. The first question I'm going to go to is one from Johnny OG, the Flying Slug. Is there any value in Arsenal being relegated? I had a look. They're 25-1. Ash, what's your thoughts?
So I think the value is starting to bottom out. the thing about when you're playing these anti-post markets is you need to be backing them in conjunction with when you want to back a team. So if you want to back Chelsea this weekend, Arsenal are probably a good value bet for relegation. However, you should have probably been backing Arsenal for relegation when they played Villa and when they played Burnley, because I was on Villa and Burnley, and you kind of do it as part of a bigger book. I mean, you wouldn't expect to get paid in Arsenal at 25-1, but it's something easy to get on side. I don't see it getting much shorter than 25-1 though. But yeah, you just want to get in the book and sort of gives you a way to play around with some other teams like Newcastle, for example.
Pete, you're muted on this.
No, I doubt there's value in Arsenal going down at 25-1. I mean, it'd be great to see, wouldn't it? Just to see what would happen. It'd be just funny. But 25-1, are they going to go down? I mean, it looks like West Brom are bad. Sheffield United are struggling. It feels like those two are going to be pretty much down. Then, I mean, I feel like they'll do enough to get ahead of Burnley and Fulham at 25-1.
I think it's not one you just play as a single. You kind of play it as a longer season book. So if you've already started your season and you've got Burnley and Sheffield United in play already, you're not going to be backing Burnley and Sheffield United to go down much more, or even West Brom, for example. But yeah, you can kind of add Arsenal to it, take away a degree of what you might lose if the unexpected happens and West Brom stay up, for example. So that's where I think there's a sort of bit of value there. As an all-round look, as opposed to this is my one bet and I'm not going to have any more bets.
Yeah, I think we should have been doing it when we started the weekly Arsenal. Was that a few weeks ago? That would have been the time.
Yeah, I mean they were 100-1 then, and you were opposing them then. So,
well, from a team that we supposedly hate, Arsenal, to one that Rob David 282 says, "Why does Cherry hate Scousers?" Being one myself, I feel harassed.
I mean, I don't hate all Scousers. Tranmere fans, they're all right. Everton fans, they're all right. Life experiences. If you having travelled around England and Europe for many a year watching football, no one likes Liverpool fans. And that's it. Like we can go into the history of it and all the political sides of it, but they're just different people to the rest of us.
Right. I might step in there before any editing of this podcast is required, because I don't like editing. I've got better things to do with my life. So Lee LMNUFC 87, obviously a Newcastle fan, jumped off the back of that and said, "I'm a Newcastle fan and they despise us too. Thoroughly deserved though. We are awful." Just for the record, I don't despise Newcastle. I loved watching Newcastle under Keegan, under Bobby Robson. However, I don't like or dislike any teams in the Premier League. I don't support a Premier League team. I support Wimbledon, my local team, where I grew up. I used to go to Sellers Park when I was a kid. I was born in Croydon. So they're my team. My next door neighbours took me to those games. But because I've not really watched much Premier League football in the stadium, I had a season ticket when they're in the Championship. And then in the combined counties when we reformed in 2002. But I don't have any biases for or against Premier League teams. I just bet what my eyes and the data tells me. And it just so happens that my eyes and the data tells me that Newcastle are a team to back against. So from my point of view anyway, there's no hatred towards Newcastle at all. AZK, who's been joining us on the weekly poker games, has said, Yorkshire puddings on a Christmas dinner or not? Ash?
I think traditionally you're not meant to have them, are you? Unless you're having roast beef. But yeah, throw them on the plate for me. I had a great Yorkshire pudding yesterday, actually, or Sunday. So yeah, and that was with pork for some reason. But yeah, Yorkshire puddings are great. Eat them.
Pete, do we have a full house? Because I'd have a Yorkshire.
I'll never send it away. I'm trying to remember if I have Yorkshires. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't mind them. Yeah.
Okay. And AZK's also asked over 2.5 in Fulham v Southampton. Currently evens. In Southampton's last 6, there's been 20 goals.
Remember, Ings is going to be out, I think, isn't he? And Fulham are missing Anderson as well. He's an important centre-back. I think it's borderline. I'd probably lean yes, but not strongly.
Yeah, kind of similar here. You feel like it's one you should back, but then Southampton are due a bit of regression in the scoring front. That's what it does. That would kind of temper me wanting to go heavy on it. But there's definitely worse bets you can have this week. So,
okay,
yeah, go for it.
I've got no opinion, but the other two gents are kind of for it. Curious Minded 3 has said, any fancies for the Aussie Open tennis? Given that Ash and I almost certainly haven't looked into this.
Ash probably has.
Okay, let's hear it, Ash.
So it's a bit right. So I was having a look at the market actually because the Australian Open qualifiers are in the Middle East.
Will you be going?
I don't think they'll be letting people in, to be honest. We'll see.
Okay.
But Andreescu's like 11 to 1, 11.0, 10 to 1 to win it. She had the whole of 2020 off. So that she feels like she's making the market a bit. Now, Naomi Osaka is 8.0, so that's 7 to 1. On her day, when she got it together, she's the best tennis player in the world, best female tennis player in the world. She's made 3 Grand Slam quarterfinals, and every time she's made it, she's gone on to win the tournament. What was that? It's US Open, Oz Open in 2019, and the 2020 US Open. If she's on it, she's not going to get beaten. She'll make the field look silly. And is she going to be on it? It's a woman. They're hard to predict at the best of times.
Oh, God. These are not the views of Save the Punter. These are the views of @CherryAnalyst. So please direct all abuse.
Please direct all offences to me. But if she wins, you can't complain. But no, it's
Hold
7
on.
to
So
1.
they can only abuse you if she doesn't win.
Well, if she does win, you can't really abuse me, can you? But yeah, 7 to 1. I think she'll give you a run for your money. And if she's in the last 8, I think she wins it. Simple as. I don't think there's anyone as good as her right now in women's tennis.
Pete, speaking of no one as good as her, you used to regularly withdraw from the Bank of Serena. That is no longer an account open. Are you going to be making a deposit into your betting account for the Aussie Open?
Well, hopefully not need to make a deposit, but yeah, we'll be getting involved, I would imagine. I've not been looking in too much into the tennis recently, but as soon as it hits January the 1st, maybe that's the day to get back involved. I think it's been pushed back maybe a couple of weeks, the Australian Open. Is it?
It has. So they moved, it's in the middle of February now, so they moved the Dubai Duty-Free tournament, that's usually in the middle of February, and put the Australian Open there. So it'll be an interesting start to the season. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Listeners, thanks very much for your questions. At this point, I'd really implore you to go to iTunes and give the podcast a review. I think we've got 41 reviews, so the reviews are really drying up. Probably because we haven't done a podcast in 2 weeks, but we're back due to popular demand. And honestly, lads, we've been getting so many direct messages as the Premier League card comes out saying, what are your bets? What are your bets? We're back with the bets this week. Please go and review us. We want to get up the ratings. Every rating's been 5-star, but with 41 ratings, no stranger's going to find us, and we're very niche. We're really only on Twitter, so we'd love you to tell your friends and give us a review. Anyway, the purpose of this podcast is betting. Let's get another couple of bets in. Pete, if you had to have one more bet on this card, where would it be?
If I had to have one, I'd probably... I'd have a go at Man City against Newcastle under 3.5. I feel like Man City keep getting priced up as if they're sort of the last couple of seasons where they were banging in goals for fun, which they haven't really been doing. Even at home, it's only against Burnley if they really put a few past anyone recently. And like Newcastle like to keep it tight. The only thing that stopped me from really going in on this one is, I think, where is it? I've got the head-to-head. The Newcastle going away to Man City. They have been beaten quite heavily a few times. I think they had a 5-0, a 6-1, another 5-0. That's the only thing that worries me. I think Man City have improved at the back, so it's going to be tough for Newcastle to score. And Man City are happy. They seem to be happy to win these 2-3-0. So that is a bet that I'm looking at.
You're contemplating, and I know we've got someone here who's got a bit more certainty on that market because he texts me to say so. So Ash, you're backing under 2.5, I believe.
Under 2.5. I think you're being a bit too safe there, Pete. Maybe to take under 3.0. No, Man City are basically. I think what Pep's doing this season is he's refusing to be that team that they're going to go and play the open football. He's trying to set a mindset for the latter stage of the Champions League, where you need to play with the two holding midfielders. If you're coming up against your Bayern Munich or your Barcelona of old, for example. And I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to drill down on, these are our tactics. We are playing two holding midfielders. And that's why Phil Foden's not getting minutes for a start. Just, you look at it, Newcastle, 18th in the shot differential table, 18th in the shot on target table, 18th in expected goals table, 18th in the non-penalty expected goals table. I don't fancy him to score. I mean, they do fraud a lot of goals, but they're odds against to score. Well, I assume they are. Man City will go 2-0 up, pass the ball around, and I think they'll be very, very happy with that. On to the next game, 2 days later, 3 days later, whenever it is. So under 2.5 goals it's over 2-1. There's 9-4 out there. It was a toss-up between that and the Man United bet as my best bet of the weekend in the Premier League. But
Okay.
I went United's best. But, yeah.
All right, let's put a point on under 3.0 goals then, because that's the middle ground between both your bets. Just interestingly, in City's last 10 versus the middle third, overs has only landed 3 times. So 7 of the last 10 have gone under 2.5 goals when playing the middle third. However, if you adjust that sample, so it's just home games, so we ignore the away games, overs has actually landed 8 out of 10. So they do tend to score a lot more at home, which would make sense. Basically, City they're going to win these sort of games. It's just how early do they score, and do Newcastle come out and try and get a goal back, or do they just accept? And Bruce has been known before to kind of not throw in the towel, but let his team just sit back and take the 2-0 or the 3-0. So I do like this. I think we got a full house there. And Ash, you mentioned a few stats, which leads me on to a question that Joseph Jones asked. He said, glad to see you record another pod. My question is, what data contributes to your team ratings and informs your pricing? And I just this requires a much longer answer next time, but I just want to cover it off very quickly. That, you know, for me, I price everything without data first, and then when I've got my shortlist, I'll bring data into it. And then, do you know what? We'll devote a section on the pod next time, and we'll answer this properly, because I'll give Pete and Ash more of a chance to kind of prepare something there. The only other bet I was looking at was Southampton odds against. I know Fulham are much improved, and new signings like Areola and Guisa have bedded in well. But their captain, Anderson's banned, as Pete mentioned. Mitrovic doesn't look like the player he was last time in the Prem. Southampton look well structured. The Romeo suspension is making me contemplate this rather than definitely back it. I was looking Southampton when they play the bottom 6 away from home. They've won 6 of the last 10. Fulham are not great at home so far this season. Only got, 5 points? They've lost 4 games at home. But there has been massive improvement recently from Scott Parker's side. Gents, Southampton are back at the price they are. They're 2.4? Could we get on board with them?
I'm just checking something quickly, but yeah, do you know, everyone knows I like Southampton. I've got quite a bit of anti-post stuff on them. I mean, they're 3s on now to finish in the top half. So just going on a line through that, 2.4 on them to win away at Fulham, who are odds on for relegation, seems a decent price actually. Yeah,
I think
I like Southampton.
it's just like for years they were a team who looked really good on the stats and their expected goals was high and their goals was never high enough. Now they're almost the opposite. They've been getting so many set piece goals. You look at the number of their games, they go 2-0 up with these set piece goals and then they can just sort of chill out. Even against Arsenal, they went 1-0 up, thought they were like big time, started stroking it about and they didn't do enough to win the game. And without Ings, it's just a worry. But then Anderson's missing and with Fulham, I'm sort of in the same position as Paris where I think it probably could be a bet. I just don't want to make the bet, sort of thing. But then if they go and win 2-0, I'll be fuming. So I'm struggling.
Interesting. Okay, so we might deliberate on this one before we put it on the sheet. Gents, we've got 2 minutes left. Anyone else for another bet?
Palace versus Villa over 2.5 goals is 1.8. So Palace have one clean sheet in 22 league games now, which was on the first game of the season against Southampton. No way they should have kept a clean sheet that day at all. Villa are top of the non-penalty expected goals table with 19.53 goals. They've played 2 games less. I don't know how they're top, playing less games than the likes of Liverpool and Man City. I can see Boxing Day being a really good shootout between two sides who don't seem to like defending and have goals in them. If you can find a TV channel to show that game, watch it because Palace Villa, probably one of the games of the weekend.
You do like an overs goals bet. Any others on the card or is that it for you, Ash?
Spurs, Wolves are top of the XG table. You're getting odds against on that going over at Wolves. I have a little bit on that. Don't really like Wolves a lot, but they are a side that can score goals when they want to. So we'll have a bit of that, but really like the Palace overs.
Okay, all right. So overs in Palace, unders in Man City v Newcastle under 3.0. Maybe Southampton to win. Definitely Chelsea to win. 2 points on that. And then we've also got a point on Pete Snap, which I've inexplicably forgotten already.
West Ham -1/4.
West Ham -1/4. And Ash, just remind the listeners of your nap.
Man United -1/4.
Okay. All right, so a fair few bets there. Gents, listeners, have a bloody brilliant Christmas.